Oil price cuts. Who is cutting oil prices? Well, simply the Saudis. Saudis announced recently that they are actually cutting the price of oil to certain areas of the globe, Asia, for example. So they're not increasing production. Their production is now down well below 10 million barrels a day. United States, well over 13 million barrels a day. But what the Saudis, I think, want to do is they want more market share. So instead of, because the United States is producing so much, instead of these countries buying from the US, they want them to buy from Saudi Arabia. So the Saudis cut oil prices, making their product cheaper than everywhere else. And in my opinion, the hope is to undercut the price of oil from companies out of the US. We'll see if this works. It actually hasn't done much to drive up the price of oil. In fact, it actually brought it down on the day that the Saudis announced their recent cut in pricing. So I'm not exactly sure what the end game is here for Saudi Arabia. They obviously are saying, well, if the US is going to be producing more than us and they continue to cut, and the United States continues to produce more, how can they, I guess, fight back? One way is to start producing more oil, which they know would further bring down the price, which is what they don't want to do. So instead, they think that cutting the price of the oil that they offer to countries around the world will have the effect that they're seeking. I don't believe that's going to happen. And as long as the United States continues to produce 13, and some people are saying it can get above 14 million barrels a day, we're hearing that smaller nations around the world are actually increasing production, Angola, Guyana, etc. We're hearing countries around the world produce more, even though Saudis have called on OPEC nations to cut more production. They did not want to this go around at their last meeting. And so the price of oil actually fell even a little bit more. And we saw oil for a brief moment in time below $70 a barrel on WTI. So going forward, what do I think is going to happen with the price of oil? I think we're going to continue to see it being range bound. Whatever OPEC, the OPEC nations and Saudi Arabia, plus one as they call it, which is the plus one is Russia, whatever they seem to be doing, whatever production levels they seem to have, doesn't seem to have an effect on the price because the US just keeps producing more and more and more. And I think that will continue over the short and medium term. We have our usual chart here on light crude oil, WTI. So this is the US dollar price. It's not Brent, which would be the European price or the price they use in other parts of the world. You can see here when we took this chart, price of oil was about $72 a barrel. Obviously, it fluctuates. It would be different this morning because it moves obviously very quickly. It is a commodity, very manipulated commodity, and one that I always recommend owning a small piece for a diversified portfolio, but I definitely don't want to see people overweight oil. I know a lot of savvy investors overweight oil to start of 2023, and that did not work out so well. So heading into 2024, I will maintain my recommendation, which is you want to own a piece of oil. You want to own some oil companies that are producing dividends. The Suncors, the CNQs come to mind here in Canada. Suncor trading at 7-8 times earnings. Now you know what that is. So valuations are really cheap. And they're paying about a 5% dividend for Suncor. So those are the names I think you want to take a look at if you want to buy some oil for a nice diversified portfolio.